My beloved child. Have you ever noticed how some people look at you, then quickly look away, only to glance back again a moment later? Not because you demanded attention. Not because you were trying to be noticed. But because something about your presence quietly interrupted the ordinary. And what if the reason has almost nothing to do with your appearance, and everything to do with a light you never realized you were carrying? There are moments you have questioned yourself in silence. You wondered why strangers smiled without knowing your name. Why certain people became unexpectedly kind, while others seemed uncomfortable before you had spoken a single word. You searched for explanations in mirrors, in clothes, in confidence, believing the answer had to be something visible. Yet the deepest reasons are often invisible. They move beneath words, beneath expressions, beneath everything the eyes can fully explain. Imagine a lantern resting in the middle of a dark path. The lantern does not chase anyone. It does not shout for attention. It simply burns. Those who are searching for direction naturally notice it. Those who have grown comfortable in darkness notice it too, but for very different reasons. The lantern changes nothing about itself, yet everyone who passes responds according to what they carry within. Perhaps your life has felt strangely similar. Some entered your world and immediately felt peace. Others disappeared without explanation. A few admired you from a distance but never found the courage to come close. You may have blamed yourself for every goodbye, never realizing that your presence was quietly revealing truths people had hidden even from themselves. That realization can be difficult to accept. Because you were taught that acceptance comes from fitting in. Yet your journey has often unfolded in the opposite direction. Every time you tried to become smaller just to make others comfortable, something inside you whispered that you were losing a piece of yourself. Listen carefully. The soul was never designed to shrink so that fear could feel safe. It was designed to become fully alive. There is a quiet strength inside authentic people that cannot be manufactured. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be rehearsed. Others sense it long before they understand it. They may not know why they keep looking toward you during a conversation. They may not even remember every word you spoke. But somehow, they remember how they felt while standing near you. That feeling leaves a mark. Not because you are perfect. Because you are becoming honest. And honesty carries a beauty that trends can never imitate. Still, there is another layer you have not yet considered. Sometimes people are not looking at you because they have already figured you out. Sometimes they are looking because your presence awakens questions they have spent years avoiding. Why does this person seem peaceful without pretending? Why do they continue showing kindness after disappointment? How can someone carry quiet confidence without needing applause? Those questions rarely become spoken conversations. Instead, they become silent reflections. Without realizing it, you have become a mirror. And mirrors create two very different reactions. Some people are grateful because they finally recognize the hope they thought was gone. Others quickly turn away because they see wounds they have worked hard to hide. Neither reaction defines your worth. It only reveals where each traveler is on their own path. There were nights when rejection convinced you that something must be broken inside you. You replayed conversations. Searched for mistakes, carried burdens that never truly belonged to you. But what if every closed door was protecting the version of you that had not fully awakened yet? What if every misunderstanding became part of preparing your heart to recognize those who would one day value your authenticity instead of asking you to erase it? Think about a seed resting beneath the soil. From above, nothing appears to be happening. No applause. No recognition. Only darkness. Yet beneath the surface, roots are reaching into places no eye can see. Without those hidden roots, the future tree could never survive the storms waiting beyond the horizon. Perhaps your unseen seasons have been building roots instead of stealing time. That changes everything. Because now the waiting no longer feels empty. It becomes preparation. And preparation often looks ordinary, until one unexpected moment reveals that nothing was ordinary at all. Soon, someone will cross your path who will notice something different about you almost immediately. Not because they have all the answers. Not because they understand every chapter of your story. But because your quiet authenticity will remind them of something they almost forgot inside themselves. Yet this meeting will bring an unexpected challenge, one that will force you to decide whether you truly believe the truth you've just begun to discover. Or whether you will retreat into the version of yourself the world once convinced you to become. And that choice changes far more than you can see. My beloved child. The hardest moments in your journey have never been the ones everyone noticed. They were the quiet ones. The moments when you smiled while carrying questions no one could hear. The moments when you wondered if becoming more like everyone else would finally make life easier. There were days when blending into the crowd seemed safer than standing in your own truth. Yet every time you tried to silence what made you different, something inside refused to disappear. That was not stubbornness. It was your spirit protecting what fear wanted you to surrender. Now, imagine standing beside a calm lake at sunrise. The water reflects the sky with perfect clarity, not because it struggles to do so, but because it has become still enough to reveal what is already there. The same is true of a heart that has endured hardship without letting bitterness become its identity. People notice that kind of heart. They may not understand why. But they feel it. Some call it peace. Others call it confidence. A few simply say, "There's something different about you." What they are sensing is not perfection. It is alignment. The quiet harmony between who you are on the outside and who you are becoming within. That kind of harmony is rare. And rarity always attracts attention. But attention is never the full story. Because whenever light becomes visible, it quietly exposes what darkness hoped would remain hidden. Have you noticed how certain conversations suddenly become deeper when you enter the room? People begin sharing things they never intended to say. Old emotions rise to the surface. Unexpected honesty appears where small talk once lived. You may have thought it was coincidence. Perhaps it wasn't. Sometimes your calm presence gives others permission to remove the masks they've been carrying for years. Not because you asked them to. Because they finally feel safe enough to breathe. Yet safety has an opposite reaction as well. Those who have built their identity around pretending often become uneasy around authenticity. Without realizing it, they compare their performance to your sincerity. And comparison can create distance where connection might have been possible. Do not mistake that distance for failure. Not every closed heart is rejecting you. Some are simply afraid of meeting themselves. There is wisdom in understanding the difference. If you spend your life trying to convince everyone to understand you, exhaustion will become your closest companion. But if you accept that every soul is walking at a different pace, peace begins to replace pressure. That is when something remarkable happens. You stop asking, "Why don't they see my value?" And you begin asking, "Am I honoring the value already placed within me?" One question searches for approval. The other discovers freedom. Freedom changes the way you walk. It softens your voice without weakening it. It strengthens your kindness without making you naive. It allows you to love others without abandoning yourself. That transformation cannot be hidden. People notice. Even if they never mention it. Even if they cannot explain it. But there is one person. One person whose attention carries more weight than all the others combined. This individual has observed you from a distance longer than you realize. Not in secret. Not in obsession. Simply through ordinary moments that seemed completely forgettable to you. A passing conversation. A simple act of kindness. A decision you made when you believed no one was paying attention. You forgot those moments almost immediately. They did not. While you measured your life by your mistakes. someone else remembered your character. While you focused on what you lacked, someone else quietly admired what could never be bought. And here's the surprising part. The reason they never approached had nothing to do with your worth. It had everything to do with timing. Some meetings lose their meaning when they happen too early. Growth requires space. Understanding requires seasons. Even the strongest trees are not rushed by the changing sky. Neither are the most meaningful connections. Still, there is something neither you nor that person fully understands yet. The path ahead will ask both of you a question that cannot be answered with words alone. It will be answered through courage, through patience, through a single decision made when walking away seems easier than staying true to what your heart has quietly learned. That moment is closer than either of you expects. And when it arrives, the real reason people couldn't stop looking at you will finally become impossible to ignore. My beloved child, there is a difference between being seen and being recognized. Many people have seen your face. Very few have truly recognized your heart. For a long time, you believed those two things were the same. You thought that if enough people noticed you, understood you, or approved of you, the emptiness would finally disappear. But attention fades. Recognition remains. Recognition is what happens when someone sees beyond your achievements, beyond your mistakes, beyond the image you present to the world. It is the quiet moment when another soul says, without speaking a word, I see who you are becoming. That kind of connection cannot be forced. It arrives when both hearts are ready to receive it. Until then, life has a remarkable way of preparing you. Think back to every season that felt like a detour. The friendships that slowly drifted away. The opportunities that almost happened. The conversations that ended sooner than you expected. You called them disappointments. Heaven called them direction. Because not every open door leads to peace. And not every closed door is a loss. Sometimes the greatest gift is the path you were never allowed to take. You may never know how many unseen disappointments quietly protected your future. One conversation you never had. One decision you postponed. One goodbye that hurt more than you admitted. Each became a thread woven into a story that is only now beginning to make sense. The remarkable thing is this. While you believed you were simply surviving, your character was quietly taking shape. Patience became stronger. Compassion grew deeper. Your ability to forgive stretched farther than you thought possible. None of those qualities appeared overnight. They were formed in ordinary moments that felt painfully insignificant at the time. And those qualities are the real reason people remember you. Not because you were the loudest voice in the room. But because you made others feel that goodness still exists. In a world racing to impress, your quiet sincerity became unforgettable. Even when you doubted yourself. Especially when you doubted yourself. Because humility carries a strength that pride can never imitate. Still, there is another truth waiting beneath this one. Not everyone who notices your light is meant to walk beside you. Some are simply passing travelers. They admire the warmth for a moment before continuing their own journey. If you chase every person who pauses to look at you, you will eventually lose sight of the road meant for you. Instead, keep walking. The people who belong in your story will recognize your direction, not just your glow. And when they do, something extraordinary begins to happen. Your conversations become lighter. Your laughter becomes more genuine. Silence no longer feels awkward. You no longer feel the need to explain who you are every few minutes. You simply exist. And somehow, that becomes enough. But before that season fully arrives, one final misunderstanding must be released. You have spent years believing that your value depended on how others responded to you. It never did. A flower does not become beautiful because someone stops to admire it. It blooms because blooming is its nature. Whether the path is crowded or empty changes nothing about the flower's purpose. Neither should it change yours. So the next time you notice someone looking at you, do not rush to wonder what they are thinking. Instead, remember this. The most powerful presence is never created by trying to be unforgettable. It is created by becoming deeply, peacefully authentic. And authenticity has a quiet way of echoing long after the moment has passed. Yet the greatest revelation has not arrived. Because very soon, you will discover that the eyes drawn toward you were never the central mystery. The real mystery is why your own eyes have overlooked something extraordinary within yourself for so long. And when that hidden truth finally comes into view, every unanswered question from the beginning of this journey will take on an entirely new meaning. My beloved child. The answer you have been searching for was never hidden in the eyes of other people. It was hidden in the way you saw yourself. For so long, you believed that if you could only understand why people kept looking at you, then you would finally understand your worth. But your worth was never waiting for someone else's attention to give it permission to exist. The real reason people can't stop looking at you is not because you are flawless. It is because authenticity has become increasingly rare, and whether you realize it or not, your life has been quietly reflecting it. You have learned to keep showing kindness after disappointment. You have continued to hope after uncertainty. You have chosen compassion when resentment seemed easier. No, you have not done this perfectly. No one does. But every time life offered you the chance to become harder, and you chose to remain human instead, something within you grew brighter. That is what people notice. Some see peace they have been longing for. Some see courage they wish they possessed. Some see a reminder of the person they used to be before life convinced them to hide behind fear. And a few, a very few, see a reflection of the person they are capable of becoming. That is why your presence feels unforgettable. Not because you are trying to stand out. Because you are no longer trying to be someone else. There was a time when you thought your differences were burdens. You questioned why your heart felt things so deeply. Why you noticed details others ignored. Why you cared when it would have been easier not to. Now you can see those were never weaknesses. They were the very qualities shaping your character. Every disappointment taught you empathy. Every delay taught you patience. Every unanswered question taught you humility. The journey that once felt unfair became the workshop where your soul was refined. And that is why the title of this story was never really about other people looking at you. It was about the moment you finally looked at yourself through a different lens. Not through insecurity. Not through comparison. Not through the opinions of strangers. But through truth. The greatest transformation begins the day you stop asking, "Am I enough for the world?" and begin living as though the answer has already been yes. From that moment forward, something changes. You stop chasing approval. You stop shrinking to fit places that cannot hold your spirit. You stop apologizing for the kindness that still lives inside you. Instead, you become steady. Quietly confident. Deeply grateful. Unshaken by praise. Unbroken by criticism. Because your identity is no longer borrowed from the crowd. It is rooted in the person you have become. And isn't it remarkable? The very thing you spent years searching for in other people's eyes was already waiting inside your own heart. So if someone looks at you tomorrow, smile. Not because you need to know what they are thinking, but because you already know something far more important. You no longer need their gaze to define your value. Your light was never created by being noticed. It was created by choosing, day after day, to live with honesty, hope, humility, and love. That is the quiet beauty people sense. That is the peace they cannot explain. That is the reason they remember you long after you have walked away. And if this story leaves you with one truth, let it be this. The brightest light is never the one that demands attention. It is the one that simply shines, and gently helps others find their way. May you keep becoming that light. Not for recognition, but because the world is made a little kinder each time someone chooses authenticity over appearance, hope over fear, and love over pride. The mystery has now been revealed. The answer was never about why people couldn't stop looking at you. It was about discovering the beautiful reason you were finally able to look at yourself, with peace.